Gove, just before we leave this, Michael Gove, you were very critical of one of your colleagues, Theresa May, in Cabinet, for appearing to jostle for position in case Cameron was kicked out or resigned or whatever. Do you think... No, you look so quizzical, it's true.
I don't know how you can speak with such authority, David. As I looked around the Cabinet table, I didn't see you there. I mean, maybe you should be.
My ears are in places where my body may not be, so to speak. Do you think this will have staunched any sort of campaign against the Prime Minister, or any disillusion on the backbenches, and stop people like Theresa May, Boris Johnson saying they want to go for the leadership, or implying they do?
The first thing I was going to say is that it's perfectly natural for people, including Boris, to want at some stage to be leader of the Conservative Party. But I also think it's important to recognise that the response that the budget secured from Conservative MPs and from Conservative supporters was uniformly enthusiastic. And when George Osborne spoke to Conservative MPs, there was a welcome for it. You'd expect that. But I think that quite a lot of the speculation about people circling and manoeuvring has been written because the press have got used to writing leadership stories. It's one of the sort of familiar plot lines with which they've become comfortable. And so that means that whenever there's an opportunity, whenever there's a pretender who can be talked up, they write about it. You mentioned Theresa. I think the most important thing about Theresa's time at the Home Office is that so far she's reduced net migration, she's reduced crime, and she's saved money in the police budget. I think she's an outstanding Home Secretary. And I think it's more important that we look at people's record than speculating in a way that the media would sometimes enjoy.
And therefore, would she please stick to her last and stop trying to manoeuvre?
Once again, David, you're attempting to put words into my mouth. And while you're more eloquent than I am, I've chosen my words because I wanted to emphasise... Well, I don't know. Because I wanted to emphasise what a brilliant job that Theresa is doing. As for what happens in the Cabinet, what happens in the Cabinet stays in the Cabinet. One of the great things about the Cabinet is that it's a confidential space in which we can say what we think, and as a result, the government is stronger for the candid exchanges we have there.
Yeah. And when Boris Johnson says if the ball came out of the back of the scrum, a loose ball came out, of course it would be tempting to run with it, and he wouldn't say no. What's your position if the ball came out of the back of the scrum? Well, many people think you'd be the man to pick it up and run. No, well, the first thing is, it's a beautiful metaphor from Boris. But the one thing I do know is that, having seen David Cameron up close, I know that it takes extraordinary reserves of patience, of judgment, of character to lead this country, and he has it, and I don't. And I think that it's important to recognise in life when you've reached, you know, an appropriate point. There are some of us who could be Director General of the BBC, there are some of us who could be Prime Minister, and then there are others of us who should know their place, and I'm one of those. Just plough our furrow. OK. Let's...